Okay, so look kids. So look at these your grid lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 feet tall.
Come down from somewhere scenic.
We're not 100% positive that she's ever was in the water, is it?
Well, what if she ended up leaving with another guy?
It's just another grasp at straws. It would be a surprise to everybody if she had any inclination to be with anybody else.
Day 3, back on the Missouri River, looking for Tammy Goff, who went missing in Great Falls, Montana on a Thursday. Now here's the thing, if you have not yet seen part 1 or part 2, you need to go check those out because we have so many twists and turns to this story. You know, for example, the story starts off with Tammy leaving with her best friend. Her best friend is her dog, Sadie, who left in the back of the pickup truck. Normally doesn't ride in the back of the pickup truck. Are we dealing with foul play? Are we dealing with suicide? Are we dealing with, something, more of just an accident? But then we throw in, did Tammy then make it over to her father-in-law's house, who had passed away years earlier, where a cat named Mouse lives? Now the thing about this is that Mouse never left the house. But on that day that Tammy went missing, the cat went missing as well. Sadie, the dog, was found later on that afternoon, was spotted around 1 p.m. The next morning on Friday, Sadie was seen right about sunlight around 5 a.m., again at 6:30 a.m., and several more times throughout the day until Sadie made the decision to swim across the Missouri River around 5 o'clock because she saw her friends on the other side of the river, 2 other dogs. In that search, over the course of the 2 days that we've already been searching, we also found a bone. We don't know where this bone came from, but we have a bone in our possession currently, and we're waiting to meet up with the sheriff. So currently, we are in Ulm at a bridge with 3 locations that we still need to search, with a possible 4th and 5th where all these locations play into the foul play or suicide or an accident. We simply don't know, and that's why we're still on the river today looking for Tammy Goff. With that, we don't have much light left, so we're gonna get out there, we're gonna finish our search today. This is one episode you are not gonna wanna miss. We've been searching for the last 2 days, and here we are in Great Falls, Montana. Now, a couple of things that we have to bring you up to speed is we have this blue dot right here is where Tammy lived. This is the house that we're currently in, which is Bob's dad's house, who passed away a couple years ago. Now, with that, there were 2 dogs that lived here at the time of his passing, as well as a cat. The cat's name is Mouse. Now, the thing is that Tammy was able to rehome the 2 dogs, but Mouse was never rehomed. So Mouse actually lived in this home all by Mouse's self. Mouse is a cat. With that, Tammy also had a best friend, who is Sadie. Sadie is a dog. Tammy never went anywhere without Sadie. So the day that Tammy goes missing, around 7 a.m., she leaves the house. Bob sees her leaving as he's stepping out of the shower, leaving with Sadie in the back of the pickup. Normally does not have Sadie right in the back of the pickup if it's just the 2 of them going. So this was a little out of the ordinary that morning. Also, by the time around 10 o'clock or so, Bob came looking for Tammy because he couldn't get a hold of her on the phone, and so he actually stopped by over here because this is one of Tammy's daily stops. So when Bob came over, the cat was gone. Now when we come into this, we're looking at, do we have an accident as to, was there foul play? Maybe. Was it an accident that Tammy went in the river or something happened to her? Maybe. But right now, all signs are pointing towards suicide. And the reason for that is, back in 2010, Tammy actually attempted to take her life. And she did so at a time when family was coming into town. And Tammy's discussions with the family afterwards was Bob, the 2 of them have been married for 42 years, was, Bob, I didn't want you to be alone when I did this. So now fast forward to 2018, when Tammy goes missing on this occasion, and they were doing everything they could building up that week with family had just come into town again. They have her youngest son's birthday was actually the day that Tammy went missing. Her granddaughter's birthday was the next day as well. And so again, coming back to the thinking of, well, I don't want Bob to be alone. So with that one, that kind of gives you the short version of it. And now let's talk about what we actually covered day 1, day 2, and kind of our game plan for today here on day 3. And so we have a couple of cell phone pings. So on day 1, we were focused on the cell phone pings, which are these yellow dots here. The airport is here. There was another cell phone ping that took place over here. But then we also have the red dots here. This is where Sadie was seen on a couple of different occasions. So this first one on day 1, on Thursday, Sadie was seen around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The next morning at 5 a.m., Sadie was seen at this red dot. And then by 6:30 or so, Sadie was seen back here at this dot. And then she was seen traveling north on the east side of the river. And then by later on Friday afternoon around 5 o'clock, Sadie actually swam the river across the other side to where we met up with the 2 dogs, because there's a family that lives over there that Sadie is familiar with 2 dogs that Sadie plays with. Tex and Jesse are the dogs' names. So we have a heavy concentration in this area on day 1. Then Bob also had some other hot spots that he would like us to check, so we checked all that on day 1. Now bring us in day 2, we found nothing on day 1, so now let's come back to home base was our thought process, because if we didn't have a dog, where would we normally start? Well, we're going to start with the homes, and we're going to start with a 5-mile radius. So with that took us over to the closest boat ramp, closest to the home, is where we started our day yesterday. From there, we then made our way up this little Sun River here, and we checked a couple of spots to where, a vehicle could potentially go in. And then we came down to the south here a little bit, because there's also, by the water treatment plant, there were a couple of locations to where a vehicle, whether accidental or intentional, could go off into the river. From there, we pulled the boat out. We ended up heading north of the airport, and we went to this Wilkinson's, is it Wilkinson's? That's Wilkinson's Lane. And so that's a pond that had never been searched before. In there, Sam and Doug took over, and we had 2 potentials that, targets that were, like, you actually had to pull the boat over.
Yeah, you take a peek at it, because it's the way the shadows were casting. I wanted to have other eyes put on it.
Yeah.
It just ended up being a palette. Just the way the shadows were casting, just you had that rectangle shape. So that was...
Yep, so we checked a couple different locations on that one, identified that it was a pallet. And then our intention was to then jump down here, where we were kind of calling this one ground 0 because of where the dog was at on day 1. And so our intention was to head over here to this big bend, because there's a couple of other locations over there, but Tammy also knew of, this property owner here. Did she have access to it? We don't know. Did we make it there yesterday? We never made it, because as we were heading down to it, we're like, wait a minute, there's a pond over here that we really want to check, which is this one here, because there was the other cell phone ping that we had not been over there, and there was a pond over there. So we diverted over there, we checked the pond, we threw the drone up in the air.
It was clear, it was shallow.
Yeah, clear and shallow. We didn't even have to put the boat in on that one. So yeah, we were able to look directly down in the water. So we come back to ground 0, and we put Doug and Sam back in the water. And Sam, take it from there. So that way I'm not doing all the talking as to...
Yeah, so yes, call this here the Big Bend. So Doug and I actually put in here at the Big Bend. We were here on day 1. And we cruised the west side. However, Doug and I, this time we cruised on the east side. And as we're going through here, the majority of the depth, is between 3 to 5 feet. There was a few pockets, but we concentrated real heavy, in this area here. We wanted to see if there was any boat ramps, private or public, but the majority of the river was 3 to 5 feet. We did have a few pockets, but other than that, nothing. We finally made it back up here, to where the dogs, Sadie's dog friends are, and that's where we caught back up with you guys. But Doug and I, we didn't spot anything, and then from there you jumped in the boat, and then you did a little something.
So while you guys were on the river, we noticed something coming back from the cell phone tower as we were coming down one of those dirt roads. There was a big canyon and gully that I was talking to Bob. I'm like, Bob, has anybody ever checked that one? He's like, well, we kind of walked the edge one time, but it was the springtime. There was, the bushes and the bloom was everything. And so it could absolutely hide a vehicle. And so while you guys were in the water, we actually went back to that location, put the drone up in the air, and we did a thorough search through that entire canyon. So we found a lot of debris, but we didn't find any vehicles in there. Bringing you up, we are, Bob's house is up here. We're currently down in this area. And so our location that we're going to begin searching today is, we noticed, KT that's been with us is the first to have noticed this little slough down here that none of us noticed, which kind of brings us down towards where Sadie was actually spotted down to the south. But this is actually tucked back behind a little marina, and if we look really close, there's some little single cow trail access roads that can get you back into this slough. And taking us back to day 1 and day 2, there was a statement that Tammy had made where, in joking with her friends, is, hey, there's a spot that's 15 feet deep in the river, and maybe someday I'll just end up disappearing. And so it's one of those things where it's always said in jest, but it's kind of like, we live in a social media world as well, where it's like, we test the waters with people, and even long before social media, it was, we test the waters of things that we say that are seriously, we see how they're received, and then we always throw a JK or LOL or something behind it. But they tend to have facts behind them, factual statements behind them. So we can't leave any stone unturned. So we are going to make our way down here. At the time of Tammy going missing, was this, is there a gate here? And, did Tammy use that gate at that moment in time? In fact, that's not the gate, that's a house there a little bit further south here. So right here, is that a gate, or is that a shadow of a telephone pole that would then bring her into the backside of the property here? Or, did she use one of these other cow trails here, come through this field and into the slough, or this cow trail here, or this house right here also is a by marriage relation to the family as well. So was somebody maybe not home there? And again, we have no idea. We just don't want to leave any stone unturned, so we're going to check this entire slough. That's going to be our first stop this morning. After we do that one, we want to then jump back down to the south of Big Bend, where we've called ground zero because of where Sadie was found. And in doing so, we want to check out, in fact, here's our Big Bend here. This is the boat ramp that we put in on both day 1 and day 2. You'll see that in both of the videos for Big Bend fishing access. But over here off of the Russell Ranch Road is where we can get to this Big Bend up here. And so we have a couple of potential locations to get into the river, but we do have access to a family friend's property right here. So we're going to go ahead and put in here after this first location. This will be our location number 2 that we're going to run down and around the bend and double check all of that.
Okay, the next section that I had been scanning over the last couple years as a possible entrance for Tammy into the river would be a little bit upriver or south of the Big Bend, which has always been our ground zero, where we just thought that something could have happened, but we're pretty much eliminating that as at least a truck being there then. So the next section that I had found some anomalies with my equipment that I'd certainly like to have Jared and team look at a little closer to see if there's something in there that I'm missing, is starting at this point that's called like a Woodland Estates subdivision that's got a boat launch on the north side of the river. We deal a lot with our river vehicle access. It's very limited for getting from one side of the river to the other, so there's some logistics issues there then, but
we're putting in over here today anyway.
Well, what I would say is that so Tammy's friend all the way through high school, her folks live out into this area, so she has some familiarity with that.
Okay.
And they have a boat launch, a public boat launch that's here. It's
Cottonwood Grove
no,
fishing
no.
access?
It's this one is we could probably launch your stuff there, but not like a vehicle.
Okay.
But then down here a little bit farther, it's kind of next to these houses. There's an actual back a trailer launch in. And then this is all really deep right in through here and then down around the corner, and had seen some there's an actual boat launch that certainly we can get your. I haven't launched there my boat, but we can certainly put your stuff in there then. Okay. But it's something that you could certainly drive a car down the ramp of. Anyway, we'll look at that a little closer here then. Okay. Well, but that's why I say, Jared, we want to look over here, and it's not very far upriver from this, so it would be maybe a good, take care of two things with one launch here. Would be to search this area, come up and around this corner, this boat launch here, our friends' undeveloped land that's all around this point. And then we got Big Bend just back down over here. So this probably about, including this over here, a mile and a half or so of the river that we could.
So I would say let's just put in at the one point, so we're not crossing the river. It's going to save us time throughout the day. So we put in here.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get a hold of that landowner. I know who she is, and I've been there before, but I don't know if we have permission to go to that point. Then.
Let's go knock on the door. I would much prefer go knock that one out there, because then that gives us access to all of this in one shot.
Or we could do public over here and then go around the corner and go past it.
Yeah, we could do that.
One way or the other. That's what we'll look at today.
I don't know what kind of pockets are in there, so let's go check it out. All right. We are a whole 1 foot here. 1 foot, 1 foot only.
Okay. Well, we knew this was a kind of limited access here. We're just interested in those other.
Yeah. I don't think we'll have anything up there. I mean, we'll run the whole thing, but I think that what we're interested in is down at this other end. So Bob, on day 1 and day 2, we really didn't talk about this, and these are questions that our viewers will want to know. But you and I had a private conversation yesterday, and part of that conversation is that our viewers would end up asking, well, what if she ended up leaving with another guy? And in our conversation, I mean, there was nothing in her phone records, there was nothing on Facebook, there was nothing in her private messages or emails, and her girlfriends never had any indication of that either. So I think that we just kind of want to put that, if that's okay, that we put that out there for the viewers, so that way they can just put that one to rest.
Yeah, I mean, I have my point of view with that is that I can't say anything absolutely for sure, but the chances of that, with my interaction with Tammy and her close girlfriends and sisters and everybody else, is that was just, it would be a surprise to everybody if she had any inclination to be with anybody else.
Yeah. Plus, coming back to Sadie. Sadie was her best friend. She would have never left Sadie behind for anything.
Yeah. The only thing with that, just with our other, if she was going out someplace to harm herself, the only other really inclination was. There was some foul play somehow, but we just had, zero, and that's what we're hoping to have with the, with this reward money. We discussed that with the donors of the money, is that, you would think there's good people out there that if you offered $100, they would come forward with information. It's like, is it $50,000, $100,000? What is that? So the $40,000 was just what the donors come up with for a figure, and but if there was foul play, we're hoping, or foul play or somebody sees her truck had an accident in a something off the dirt road, that they recognize the truck, that we're just hoping that somebody would come forward with any little bit of clue with that, and if the reward money is an enticement for them, great. You know, it's there for the, you grasp at straws when you're looking for a missing person, and one of those is just looking at, and I kind of separated those into mediums, psychics, and dreamers, and that different people that just have visions that want to help and just trying to give us a clue of what to look for. And it's I'm a born skeptic with some of that, but it's just too eerie that there was a lot of similarities in their in what they had what they were seeing, envisioning. And one of them is that Tammy was not in the water. She was near water and had been wet, but not wet anymore. But I just we've tried all these different approaches, but my ability, my search ability, has just always been in the water, so that's what I continue to do. But we've never given up on the fact that we're looking in coulees, we're looking on underneath trees, and that Tammy might have just was out driving that day and had going out with Sadie for, we'd like to just go out, drive on country roads, just kind of clear your head type thing, and that she could have had an accident. So I mean, we're not 100% positive that she's ever was in the water. It's just that she had, she loved the water, hung around the water, and that's why we're here. But I've been reluctant to discuss the medium psychic thing, just because it's just another grasp at straws.
Zip zero, zilch.
Cross it off the list.
Unless we had a 9-inch tall car, I don't think we're in a little trouble running it in here. This is the Big Bend boat launch. I've been here 30 times searching either boat or along the river's edge, and I'm sure until we find Tammy or find some other clue, I'll be here 30 more times. There's nothing that we can see here, but it's just the most logical. The most logical spot that she could have disappeared at. So here we're back here again today on another attempt.
And on this one, we're actually heading up from here, but that's where the housing development is at that we were talking about as well.
Yeah, it's a ways up there. There's just there's our Missouri is pretty remote out into here, which is why you might wonder why I always consider this ground zero. But if that was something where Tammy actually drove into the river and nobody saw or seen anything, it'd have to be, my opinion, be very remote, and that's where we're at here. A very remote, easily accessed point, and some place that Tammy and I and Sadie had visited in the past, so I know Tammy was familiar with this. So
when she walks the river and it's more rural, like here, as opposed to walking, the trail in town with Sadie,
right?
Is this the #1 spot she would come to walk? Do you know?
No. I mean, this was very infrequent, but all this kind of south of town was just our. I just firmly believe that on that day, Tammy had an anxiety level about, upcoming events, and we had these big, birthday parties and the granddaughter in town, and that, another one of my philosophies is that she was just out driving with Sadie. She just loved to come down to the river and her comfort zone, and that if we were driving around on some roads that we would do in the summer, that there could have possibly been an accident or a spur of the moment decision. So no, this wasn't our normal haunt here, but definitely something that we would come to periodically when we were south of town here.
All right, guys, so I got Bob in the boat now. We're gonna head upstream and hopefully find something.
we're working our way down the list, and this was one of my my least possible areas, but we're still trying to rule out, you know, while we're here, we're trying to rule out these spots that I've been looking at over the years. So.
Yeah, we definitely rolled this out, so we're gonna go ahead and cruise on back and jump in the RV and head on down to another spot.
Very good. Yeah.
So, well, first off, we got down to the pump house. Nothing, you know, there was nothing there. Really wasn't deep. But also, we spent a lot of time going through maybe about 10 inches of water. Where actually, we had to use the pole as a stick to kind of guide us. And during that, he was on pole, and I was actually moving the motor, and he goes,
"Where's Bob?"
Bob just fell out of the boat. He came up laughing and smiling though, so that's good.
So it looks like we got to make a swing by the house, get Bob dry, new shoes on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something a little bit. I mean, it's glad it's not cold out here today.
Yeah, but we rolled, you know, as shallow as it is, and us zigging and zagging and trying to work our way through. That's best to, you know, throw this in the trailer and then actually drive there.
This is where we can kind of.
Every ramp we go to, I mean, I just want to be so hopeful that it's like, this is the one, and then nothing but a sandy bottom. So there's the public access. We just bottomed out with the motor. We just came up to 1.9 feet, 1.8 feet. So this one, way too shallow right there. And with all that lightning going on, Jim, I'm just gonna say I took my hat off. I'm just thinking about lightning and having pins on there. So you do what you want, but my hat's off right now, all right?
Okay, I'll follow suit with that one.
Well, no, if you keep yours on, then there's less chance of me getting hit first.
But I don't want to get hit.
So these houses up here, Jim, are the ones that we wanted to get around the bend to check out one of the access points. And this access point that we're after is right down here. You see with the White House up here?
Right.
And that road just comes down, and I believe that this is just to the west of this is where they had the dogs that we're at, Tex and Jesse.
Right.
Jess, is that his name?
Jesse and Tex.
Jesse. That landowner also used to own the land just north of this as well. And so we want to check this one and one more around the corner. So that road that comes down right there, that's our hole, 10, 11, 12 feet, back up to 8, nothing in the hole.
Real adamant about that, but I don't want you ever ride your motorcycle without it. You know, she got to see the ugly part of it, you know.
Your thoughts back to the house for not where we're staying, not Dad's house, but you know, your actual home.
Correct, yeah.
Let's look at north right there in town. A few things I've been looking at are so focused on the dog being down here to the south off of the road on where you know, and where Sadie was found, which then brings us to the potential of, let me come over here. Then we have, so that brings us to the potential of Tammy taking Eden Road down for just a nice morning loop drive that's going to take her down to Eden, onto Milliken, that's going to then bring her back to Ulm,
Right.
that's going to let her, you know, then jet up the, you know, the interstate to come home.
And that's what we'd go out and look at baby cows and stuff. That would be just a little loop that we would take. You know, this time of the year, we were looking at small horses and cow. You know, just even when we've been driving our little bit of drives. But
Right.
that would be a pretty good loop for us. Is that you know, Eden, over the Eden Bridge, Milligan to Ulm, and then back to Great Falls.
So based upon that, you know, one is it makes sense that you guys have done that multiple times, and so now if we come down Eden, there's nothing that I'm seeing on Eden that's a accident into the canyon.
Right, yeah,
There's
that's
also
pretty tough on that one.
Yeah, I'm also not seeing any ponds or any lakes or any streams that's an accident off of Eden. So then that brings me over to, you know, you're coming back up Milligan, but let's work it backwards from Milligan, from Ulm, just as far as what I'm seeing. And so we come to Milligan here, and whether we treat this as an accident or purpose, because we've also been in situations where we had a older grandma that was actually at the river. She was enjoying the river, and when she went to leave, oops, wrong gear.
Yeah, into the water instead of
into
out
the water.
Away, okay.
So here we are, you know, stopping at, whether again accident or on purpose, we have 3 different access points right here at the Ulm Bridge. You have one on the west side, you have one on the east side, and then you have one on the south east side of the river as well. So we still have some daylight right now. Let's go check those 3.
There's an old bridge and an old bridge abutments that are down. I mean, I see all kinds of crap with my fish finder down over there, you know, just shapes and stuff, but we can see that there's an abutment here, and that I've just always heard, yeah, that's just the old bridge down there. But this little road that goes down over here that would go into that would be something could get hung up, you know, a vehicle could be hung up on that structure down there, and I'm
the river's
just
running
missing it.
this direction.
Correct, yeah, the flow's going this way.
Yep, so whether it gets butted up against the bridge or, you know, it gets pushed down.
Yeah, that's what I say, there's all kinds of structure looking stuff right down there on this side of the bridge, and it was always told to me, yeah, that's just the old bridge, you know.
So you scan this. Some other people
Right.
scanned it, but then we also have the have you scanned this?
Not really.
Have you scanned this? Have you scanned any of this? So let's.
Yeah, not really gone really slow down in through there to kind of look at that.
Okay. So you know, again, we could just be dealing with a, you know, morning drive accident.
Right, exactly. You know, so well, I mean, and this would be could be an on purpose, but that it would be it was one of my. In fact, I had Gene down there then. Yeah, we scanned that with Gene, but I mean we did.
Well, let's go put our eyes on it.
Exactly.
We've got only 3 hours of daylight left, so let's go get it done.
Sounds great.
Okay, here we are. We're right in the town of Ulm. We have 3 really easy access points right here within about 100 yards of each other to this river. They're all accessible just like on ramps like we have here, right where we're standing, on the other side of the bridge, and on the opposite side of the river. So we think this is a really good place to check, and keep our fingers crossed. We'll get it done.
Yeah, I was just say though, this access point over here with the on the far side of the river, just upstream from that first abutment, is just there's all kinds of something down in the water over there then, and it was explained to me that it was an old bridge pilings then, but it'd be nice to just have a little closer look at it.
Right here, like Bob was saying, it's, you know, more shallow over here. In fact, I'm at 4.5 feet right here. So we have the old bridge pillar and something between the old bridge pillar and the new bridge pillar that's sitting right there, which Bob had a question about as well. Okay, old bridge pillar. Don't know what that is. It's not showing up on live scope, like coming up, and it was still on my right, so like I said, it's like right in line with that. So I'm almost thinking it's just part of the old bridge, but until I see it on live scope and down imaging, we won't know how high it is. Okay, it is 3.5 feet tall. I think it's more of just a tree or something that's over here. Oh, we got something else there too. But right here, it's gonna pop up on the screen here. You can sneak your head over here too. I'm getting too far away from it. That's not it. Or, wait, what is that? Is that a wheel?
Oh, it kind of did look like a wheel.
And that's 4 or 5 feet tall. Okay, so look at these your grid lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 feet tall. But that could just be your old bridge piling there. Yeah, see, I think that's your old one. I'm looking for what's between that and this bridge here. So we need to come back over here just a little bit. See, it's this other one that I'm interested in for you.
Let me know.
All right, go ahead and put it down. So you should be right on top of what it is I want you to snag right now. You're just bouncing over it. I can see the magnet. Pull the magnet up.
I feel it. It's hard.
Yeah, see, you're not latching on to anything. That's a tree log. I can clearly see that's a tree log, I think.
Oh.
You're gonna say, no, that's not a tree log.
No. I just feel like a snag, not like magnetically snag. Yeah, I'm off.
Yeah. We're down to 1 foot here along the highway. So that knocks out 1, 2, 3, and our 4. So we need to pack the boat up and then make our way down to where it would be an intentional. So we have one more spot along this. In fact, this river, this is the Missouri River. We're gonna go on the Smith River next.
Yeah, Jared, this is way too shallow. I mean, look, it even kind of bottoms out over there. You can see all the ripples.
Yeah, no, yeah, it clearly bottoms out right there. Plus you got a
Irrigation pipe over there, I think.
Just right there.
Yep.
Probably about 3 feet.
But one thing we know for sure is take this off the list, you know?
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, it looked promising. It's just, you know, we're gonna have to take it back to basics tomorrow. For sure.
I agree with you. Basis for you means what?
Right back to where the dog was.
I agree with you.
I mean, if we were off by 10 inches, we were off by a mile, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say let's really tighten up the search area tomorrow with that dog area.
Yeah.
You know, from where the dog was first seen, and not necessarily where the dog swam the river, you know, as far as our starting point.
Right.
I think that where the castle is at is our farthest point upriver. Let's really take that and move out further into the river, and then come down to where the dog was seen twice, the day before as well as in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Or in the afternoon as well as the next day. And then also where the Tahoe was found. I think we really need to search that one more, really banking that one on an accident scene on that one.
Thank you guys so much for watching and be a part of this search as we're out here looking for Tammy.
Make sure you guys all click the like button, subscribe, make sure the bell notification on, and if you haven't already, make sure you watch part 1 and part 2 so you can catch up to right where we're at and where we're gonna pick up tomorrow.
In Montana, last reported mileage was here are 2 cell phone ping locations, and this one holy, ooh, we might do. Okay, we're